Episode 46, Longing for More. Welcome to Reviving Your Soul, where Christians are finding the courage to embrace their faith in all aspects of their lives so they can stop being bored or overwhelmed and begin to live the life in fulfillment and in peace that God created them for. I'm your host, Vanna Johnson. Let's get started. We are all created with a purpose in life. Most of us know someone who instinctively knew their purpose from a very early age and set out to fulfill it without wavering. They are happy, healthy, and fulfilled, and are wanting for nothing else. Others have a really good life, but always with a sense of there should be more. And still others seem to have taken a wrong turn somewhere, and they feel lost all of their days. They know there should be more to life, but they haven't a clue how to find it. If either of these last two scenarios sound familiar, please stay with me today as I want to address those of you who are haunted by the knowing that they were created for more. I'm going to share with you how I discovered my more, and the 3 steps I believe are necessary for each of us to find what's missing that keeps us from feeling fulfilled. You may be asking why this is important for you to know this. I'll tell you why. Because you don't know how much time you have left in your life. It could be a few days, or it could be many years. But the reality is, we are all called to use our talents for good and to not bury them in the ground. As long as you still have breath in you, you still have time to make the change and make a difference, to finally find that thing that is missing in your life and to live out your full potential. I remember it like it was yesterday. As I disconnected from my call, I was overcome with an emotion I could not explain. I crumpled to the floor, racked in tears. I then sat there for several minutes, shaking. What on earth had I agreed to do? Who did I think I was to promise that I would do that? Rewind the calendar almost exactly 1 year. I was living a great life with a wonderful job, a beautiful family, and I felt like I was really making a difference in the world. I was halfway through a health coaching course I'd taken to help figure out solutions to the various health challenges I'd been experiencing. Most significantly, I had learned that my challenges were a result of the stress I'd been dealing with in different areas of my life, mostly as a result of my need to have control over so many things. The coaching was really having an incredible impact, and although I was feeling better, I started to get this overwhelming sense that there had to be more to life than what I was experiencing. It was all I could think about. I was being haunted by the knowing that God wanted me to make a change, a really big change. Despite all of my doubts and fears about leaving the security of my really awesome job, I knew I could no longer deny the pull to my something more. So I embarked on a journey to share the magic of regaining health by looking at life through a different lens. One that allows you to follow simple guidelines and flexible approaches instead of hard and fast rules. One that helps you zero in on the important aspects of life and let go of the stress and overwhelm that comes from following all the rules and doing it their way. Things were going pretty well. I had a few clients and I was learning to do the marketing side of the business. Strangely, I kept getting invitations to talk about general life and business-related topics, most of which revolved around making good choices. Even more strange was I kept getting drawn into situations where I ended up talking about my faith. Random people shared with me that my speeches always came to life when I shared my personal story and, more importantly, when I talked about my faith. And then, out of nowhere, this other thing came up. The way it came about was a little bizarre, but the next thing I knew, I was in line to be the backup for a speaker for a church service to be a part of our local Heritage Festival being held that fall. The day I ended up on the floor in tears was the day that I found out I was no longer the backup speaker. I was the speaker. It wasn't until months later that I understood what the tears were all about. It wasn't the prospect of being on stage. I'd done that many times before. Yeah, I was nervous, but I'd been nervous about speaking dozens of times, and I'd never cried about it. The real reason behind the tears did not become apparent until several months later. By then, I'd taken a training on how to create a podcast. Where that came from, God only knows. I had just released my podcast called Reviving Your Soul. I guess I was getting used to the idea of talking about my faith because it was to be a faith-based show. Really, again, it had to be bigger than me. The week the podcast was released, I received a text message from a friend. It said, quote, "I loved what I heard. It was so good. God is using you, sister, in an incredible way," unquote. There it was again, those tears, that emotion from the core of my being that I could not explain. Only by then, a common thread was beginning to emerge. It happened when I was being drawn to share my faith in a very public manner. I now know that I was creating a foundation for what was the basis for my coaching career. No, my whole reason for being. Today I'm going to share with you what I believe is the reason that I was created for. It's a culmination of everything I'd experienced to this point, all coming together to help others find their purpose and live the life their soul is longing for. Any of you who have followed my journey since I've started this season of life knows it's been more of a quest than a journey, with twists and turns, starts and stops. Truly a whole string of random programs that seemingly had no connection. Until now. For the most part, we understand that it is vitally important that we care for the whole person, our mind, our body, our heart, and our spirit. If we fail to nurture any aspect, we eventually will lose something of value to us. I'd been trying to focus on one area at a time, and it simply wasn't working. Each and every one of us has an area that we are neglecting at any given time. My goal is to help people I work with discover the area that needs nurturing so that they can live the life their soul is longing for. And now that I get to do this work, it's even more gratifying than I thought. It's amazing to be working with people all over the world and help them find the missing piece in their life. For example, I recently worked with a client who came to me stressed out, anxious, and struggling with relationships in her family. Our work together helped her forgive her past so she could believe in herself, begin to physically heal, and to create the life she'd always dreamed of. Now she's calmer, more connected to God, and she's finishing her first book. I know some of you are thinking, I've got a good life. It isn't reasonable for me to expect that it could be any better. But how many of you are actually living the life you dreamed about when you were a kid or a young adult? How many of you could say there isn't something you could improve in your life, whether it be a relationship, your dissatisfaction in your work, your connection with God, or even a healthier lifestyle? When I talk to my clients, you know what the biggest reason why they think they can't have a better life is? Because they think it's too hard. They think they have to make a drastic change in their life to be happier. The reality is, it's not hard at all. People think they may have to take a different job or move to a different part of the country, but they're looking at it all wrong. So here's the secret. If you want to have a better life, you have to change the way you look at life and the relationships in your life. There are 3 main points to consider when you're ready to step into the life you were created for. They are, 1, you need to get really grounded in who you are, what you believe in, and what you value. 2, you must let go of the lies you've been told about yourself and have embraced as truth, so that you can believe that you truly are worthy of a really great life. And 3, you have to find out what really inspires you and then believe that to have the life you really want, you simply have to make the choices to make it happen. An example I have is of a client that I had a while back who owned her own business. She seemed to have it all. But after a few short months of working together, she was calmer. She was more focused. And she suddenly realized that the things she always thought were important weren't, and all the things she thought weren't important were. She started consciously being present for her family, taking time off to enjoy them when they were together, taking long lunches and sharing experiences with people she loves instead of rushing off to the next appointment. She even took several days off to help a client in need, something she would have never given herself permission to do before our work together. So how does this work, you ask? It's easy. We can have one quick conversation to see what your more looks like, and if I might be the person to help you find the path that is within your heart already. If it feels right, and we have a conversation about what it can look like to move forward. If it doesn't feel good to either one of us, We've both had an enlightening conversation and a fun time together. If we work together, you will begin a journey that will change your whole outlook on yourself and the world around you. You can truly love your life, all aspects of it. Are you ready to find your more? Let's have that conversation and see what's inside of you that haunts your thoughts. God has a plan. I encourage you to trust Him enough to take the first step to see what it is. Or are you going to let that fear keep you from your so much more? Thank you so much for listening today. If this struck a chord with you, please give yourself permission to take action right now. Don't let the calling on your heart linger for another day. You really don't know how much time you have left. Making the decision to take action could change your life. But more importantly, this investment of 1 hour could change the lives of the people around you. To schedule your Discover Your More conversation, hop over to my website at vannajohnson.com or my Facebook business page at Vanna Johnson Coaching and click on the button provided to schedule an appointment. I can't wait to help you discover the life that your soul is longing for.